All right. Thank you everyone for joining us for our next data forum. Our topic today is um, foreclosure and tax windfalls. And we've got a really excellent group of folks. One on the way to give an interview on this very topic to the news. But Alex Alsup will give us kind of some background and overview on where we're at with tax foreclosure and the windfall mapping that he did. Shiva is going to share some of the work that Outlier Media is doing, phone banking, making sure Detroiters know about what's happening. And then Donovan will, if he's in his interview or not, give us some background on kind of the legal um, workings of this topic. And I'll just give a quick. I'm Alex Hill, and we just relaunched DetroitData.org, the open data catalog for Detroit. So we are cross-listing data from 7 different open data portals, as well as encouraging folks to post community data that they've either collected in their communities or if they're nonprofit data work that they're doing that might not get shared on some other authoritative um, data portal. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please reach out and connect with us. And I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand the reins to Alex. Oops. There you go. Should be good.
Cool. Thanks for having me here, Alex. Um, I'm Alex Alsup. I am the Vice President of Research and Development at Regrid. Uh, some of you may know it formerly as Loveland Technologies. We're a Detroit-based parcel data company. And I'm going to start by giving sort of a overview of what the state of um, uh, Detroit homeowner property tax delinquency and tax foreclosure risk looks like right now. And then I'll briefly touch on and sort of set up the windfall tax profit topic and hand off to the other presenters from there. So I'll share my screen here. Everybody see that okay? Looks like it's coming through okay. All
Yeah,
right,
you're good.
good. Cool. Okay. So state of property tax delinquency and tax foreclosure in Detroit today. Quick overview. The combined effect, I'm going to define these terms, but just to let you know what I'm going to be going through. The combined effect of the city of Detroit's HOPE property tax exemption, the pay-as-you-stay um, partial retroactive exemption, and the Detroit Tax Relief Fund, philanthropic fund, which pays off the remaining delinquent taxes owed by homeowners in poverty in Detroit who receive the pays exemption. The combined effect of those 3 programs since 2020 has nearly eliminated Detroit homeowner tax foreclosures and drove homeowner tax debt to extremely low levels. However, the need for the ongoing use of the HOPE exemption remains an issue for homeowners who need it. It's still a fairly onerous thing to apply for, and it's still not well understood by the homeowners who need it that they need to reapply every year. And then critically, pay as you stay, which is the state law that retroactively reduces property tax debt owed by people who get property tax exemptions, is scheduled to sunset in July of this year, and as far as I know, is not slated to be renewed. There's not a push or desire to renew it. And so as a result, we're already seeing backsliding of homeowner tax delinquency in Detroit, homeowner delinquency numbers starting to creep back up. And without pay as you stay being renewed and more effective administration of the HOPE program, homeowner tax debt will likely start to reaccumulate. So where do we stand right now? This is occupied Detroit homes tax foreclosed between 2014 and 2024. Obviously, you can see the really big era that we have moved out of. And today, the much lower totals of especially homeowner tax foreclosures. I'm going to split up the reduction in homeowner tax foreclosures into two separate eras. The first I'll refer to as the URSPA era. So 2016 to 2019, we had these so-called URSPA payment plans. They were fairly effective at keeping homeowners out of tax foreclosure. They were completely ineffective at reducing the amount of property tax debt that Detroit homeowners owed. And so, you'd get on an URSPA, it would keep you out of the auction, but it wouldn't reduce your debt at all. And actually, by the end of 2019, there was more homeowner property tax debt than there was prior to the creation of the URSPA payment plan. And so, people talk about tax foreclosure and the tax foreclosure system as though it is one thing, but actually, there are a set of nested systems here. There's the municipal finance system, there's the property tax system. Within the property tax system is the delinquent tax system. And then on the other side of the delinquent tax system is the tax foreclosure system. These are all distinct but related systems. They all have their own laws, they all have their own ways that you move through them. And the issue with the URSPA payment plan, the issue with the primary sort of approach to avoiding homeowner tax foreclosures in Detroit was that it always came at the point of the tax foreclosure system, which is too late. The right way to get people, the right way to eliminate tax foreclosure risk is to not have delinquent property taxes in the first place, is to stay out of these systems altogether. And so what's worked to get upstream of both the tax foreclosure system and the delinquent tax system is this trio of programs that have existed since 2020. Hope existed prior to that, but the three of them have existed together since 2020. The City of Detroit's Hope property tax exemption, which eliminates the current year's property taxes for homeowners in poverty. Pay as you stay, the 2020 state law that allowed for the partial reduction of tax debt owed by homeowners who receive a Hope exemption, and then the Detroit Tax Relief Fund, a $15 million fund from the Gilbert Family Foundation, which pays off the remaining tax debt owed by somebody who receives a pay-as-you-stay tax reduction. When I led philanthropic housing programs at the Rocket Community Fund back in 2020, I was part of setting this up and working on all three of these programs. And critically for homeowners today, the entry point to all of this is the Hope property tax exemption. If you get the Hope property tax exemption, all three programs are automatically triggered. So to the homeowner, it just feels like you're applying for one thing. You don't have to go through three separate programs. Collectively, these three programs are a fully retroactive property tax exemption for homeowners in poverty. As a result, since the creation of this sort of pipeline of tax debt elimination for homeowners in poverty, Hope property tax exemptions have soared over the last few years. There have always been, for probably 20 years, we have had at least 35,000, 40,000 Detroit homeowners who are qualified for the City of Detroit's property tax exemption. Very, very few people used to get that exemption. The number of people getting that property tax exemption, getting in the door, getting in that pipeline from Hope to Pays to the Detroit Tax Relief Fund is now much, much higher. And so now, as we've sort of been in this pay-as-you-stay and Detroit Tax Relief Fund era, we are seeing not only much, much lower numbers of homeowners losing their homes to tax foreclosure, we are also seeing critically the elimination of property tax debt for homeowners. And again, having property tax debt is what puts you at risk of tax foreclosure. So it's not enough to just stop the tax foreclosure. You have to eliminate the debt. And the reality is for, all these homeowners who are at risk of tax foreclosure is that they have long qualified for property tax exemptions for reasons of poverty. But those exemptions used to be impossible to apply for. People didn't know that they existed, and they wound up under mountains of inescapable property tax debt. So since 2020, since the creation of, the sort of pipeline of HOPE, Pay As You Stay, the Detroit Tax Relief Fund, we've seen an incredible number of homeowners not only avoid tax foreclosure, but eliminate their property tax debt. By my estimations, we've seen around 16,000 Detroit homeowners who've seen their tax debt eliminated, a total of $60 million of property tax debt that's been wiped out. And as a result, the number of owner-occupied homes that are severely tax delinquent, what the Wayne County Treasurer refers to as subject to foreclosure, meaning that they owe 2 years of back taxes or more, has dropped 65%, or had dropped, I should say, 65% between 2020 and 2024. In 2020, there were around 18,000 Detroit homeowners who owed 2 or more years of back taxes. 2024, that number was 6,300. In 2025, this is, and I'm sorry, I should say this is as of January 15th, each of these years. In January 15th of 2025, we saw the first increase in the number of Detroit homeowners with 2 or more years of property tax debt since quite a while. The reason for that is that homeowners who had previously had their debt eliminated by Pay As You Stay and the Detroit Tax Relief Fund have since accumulated new property tax debt because they have not reapplied for the HOPE property tax exemption, and they're now subject to foreclosure again. And so the increase in homeowners with 2 or more years of delinquency that we are now seeing is almost entirely driven by the fact that homeowners who need to keep reapplying for the HOPE property tax exemption are not effectively being outreached to, are not effectively being re-enrolled into the HOPE property tax exemption, and are starting to accumulate new debt. The consequences of this moving forward is that, again, HOPE remains difficult to apply for. Outreach hasn't been adequate. Pay As You Stay, the program which retroactively reduces a portion of the back taxes owed by homeowners in poverty and makes it possible for the Detroit Tax Relief Fund to pay off the rest, is slated to sunset on July 1st. Last I heard, Mayor Duggan does not support a Pay As You Stay extension. And so if that critical linchpin, Pay As You Stay, goes away, then I think we will continue to see more property tax debt reaccumulate for Detroit homeowners in poverty as we lose the ability again to retroactively address property tax debt that should not have accumulated in the first place, because all these people qualify for the city of Detroit's homeowners property tax exemption. The last thing I'll mention before handing off here is, there have been a number of tax foreclosure related lawsuits in Michigan and as well as other states around the country. And one of the consequences of these lawsuits is that the Michigan Supreme Court ruled that property owners who lost their property to tax foreclosure and saw that property sell at auction for more than the tax debt owed from 2015 through 2019 can retroactively reclaim those profits that were made by the county when the property was sold for more than what was owed in back taxes. And so at Regrid, we have tracked Wayne County tax foreclosure auctions going back to 2010. And so when that ruling came down from the Michigan Supreme Court, I went back and took all of our tax foreclosure auction data and tried to identify all of the owner-occupied homes in the city that sold between 2015 and 2019 for more than what was owed in back taxes. There were around 20,000, 22,000. Maybe I'm wrong. No, sorry. There were around 11,000 Detroit homeowners who lost their homes to tax foreclosure between 2015 and 2019. And about 2,400 of them saw their homes sell at auction for more than the tax debt owed. So not a majority by any means, but there there is a collection around 2,400 homeowners out there, former homeowners, who are today potentially able to claim as much as $20 million total in what are called windfall auction profits. And so I published this dashboard. I'll drop a link to the dashboard in the chat where anybody can go and see, when a property was sold at auction, how much it's sold for, if there are windfall profits that could be recovered, for former homeowners in Detroit. And there's been really incredible work done by Outlier Media and the folks at the Detroit Justice Center and others who are taking this data and going and finding the former homeowners that are now potentially able to collect money and helping them through the process to do so. And so I'll stop there. Thank you for the time, and happy to answer any questions later on, of course.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. And it's just incredible to see the amount of work you've done in this arena over the years. So this is a perfect setup as we dig in more. All right, let me Shiva, you are on our list twice. Is there
I
one
know.
one that you want? Oh,
I don't know who the other Shiva on the call is with my name. I tried to message them in the chat.
oh no.
So I have no idea. This is the account I'm actually on.
Okay.
I have
Hopefully
no
it's
idea.
not a Zoom
Kind of
bomber.
creeping me out. Yeah. So should I go next?
Yes, yeah. Here, I just made you a co-host.
Okay, sounds good. First off, major credit and thank you to Alex, because a lot of the work that we're doing right now, Outlier would not be possible without the data sets that we've had access to. And yeah, Alex, that map, I access it now every day when I'm talking to people in this process. So let me share my screen. Can you see my presentation or no?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So at Outlier, we are a model for others who believe that democratizing information, redistributing power is essential. Our newsroom works towards a vision of a liberated city with healthy civic infrastructure rooted in Detroiters' participation and self-determination. So we focus on Detroit, and this project is a really interesting one for us because it's both editorial, but it's also social service, civic journalism, service journalism. And so, beyond reporting now, we are taking this information that we've received from Alex to do some outreach. And so I'll go over a little bit of
Shiva,
what we've
sorry to
been doing.
interrupt.
Yeah.
People are saying they can't see the presentation in the chat.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Give me one moment then. Let me stop this.
Oh, I could see it.
You could see it?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. Okay. Let me try one more time here. How about now?
Oh,
Yeah?
yes. Okay. I think I was seeing your desktop.
Yep, got it
Now
now.
you're good. Now you're good.
Okay, good. Thank you for letting me know. Alrighty. So it's tough to find a Detroiter who wasn't impacted by the foreclosure crisis. And some of this presentation I've adapted from the presentations that our reporter Kobe Levin, who's kind of spearheaded this project in our newsroom, has been showing to a lot of our phone bankers. So this is an adapted version along with some data that I've pulled from our outreach. But generally, between 2005 and 2015, as you heard, 1 in 3 properties in the city were foreclosed on. While subprime lending fueled the crisis, lots of folks just couldn't, pay their mortgages, but tens of thousands of foreclosures were unpaid property taxes. And you can see that in this graph with that peak. And this map is pretty horrifying because you can see the prevalence of these foreclosures between 2002 and 2017. So a lot of people lost their homes for a lot less than, for a little amount, cost of an iPhone, as this story explains. Even though they paid off their mortgages and whatnot, these property taxes accumulated. As you heard, a lot of these properties were overassessed. And yeah, but Wayne County profited from these tax foreclosures. And when they were foreclosed on, they were sold at auction. 421 million was collected. Pretty problematic given that, I think Detroit fronted a lot of that so that Wayne County would not go into bankruptcy. So this is a part of a pattern of predatory governance, racist policies that rob Black Detroiters of intergenerational wealth. Bernadette Atoene has done a lot of work around this and just released a book that we highly recommend. But again, overassessment was closely related to what was going on. But the Michigan Supreme Court did rule that Wayne County violated the Constitution by taking this money, and I'll leave it to Donovan to explain more of how that came to be. But Detroiters can reclaim the funds if Wayne County profited from the homes that they sold at auction, so these foreclosed homes. And so in December, Kobe wrote this story on Alicia, who grew up on the West Side. And, this was a family home that they had that they lost to tax foreclosure in 2019 for just $3,000 in unpaid taxes. But at the same time, the county turned around and sold it at auction for $11,000. So when we think about windfall profits in this example, they profited $8,000. Or, there was an $8,000 compared to the taxes owed. So using the public records, and a lot of this we've had to actually Google or use LexisNexis to find, because initially we just had the names and the addresses of the impacted homes. And so no current phone numbers or emails or whatnot. But in the case of Alicia and the people that we are able to contact, we're helping them fill out this form that's due to the Treasurer's office by March 31st. It's a one-page form. It doesn't require copies of the deed or whatnot. It does ask for the day and where it was recorded. But, in the same way that you don't see the outreach for HOPE or, appeals or just being able to deal with these sorts of property tax situations, this process has not been made easy necessarily for those who are applying. This is, it's one page, but it can become complicated for some people, especially given that a lot of these foreclosures are associated with trauma as well. So, or another thing that we've been experiencing a lot is the fact that out of the 2,700 people we're trying to reach, a lot of them are deceased, and we need to try to find heirs or next of kin, and they might not have the simple information. But not only are you confronted with this form, but you have to also notarize it and send it in certified mail, request for receipt, or submit it in person. And also, given that we're talking to people whose houses were foreclosed between 2015 and 2020, a lot of people have left Detroit as well. So yeah, it's not as so easy to necessarily go into the Treasurer's office to submit this form. But upon sending in this form, somebody like Alicia will get a letter by July 1st, and it will confirm the amount that they're owed. So in this case, we were seeing that $8,000. That's actually the average owed right now. And so, you know, hopefully she would get a confirmation by July 1st, but then there's still some next steps. You have to file a motion. And this is why our partnership with Detroit Justice Center is really crucial. So we're trying to find more folks like Alicia, like I just mentioned, 8,000 owed on average, 20 million total. 449 people are owed more than $15,000. I will be on the phone with residents who are owed $28,000, $30,000. I've seen, you know, and they didn't know that this process exists until we called them through some of our outreach efforts. It's a travesty, and it's definitely a continued injustice that they don't know that this money is owed to them. And the fact that the deadline to file is March 31st. I, you know, began in this project as a documenter. I've been working with Outlier Media as a civic documenter, and you know, I've seen this project accelerate at a really intense speed because of this March 31st deadline. So I first came in kind of to beta phone bank. You know, we were given the list, we were told to Google the names, try to find just anything to contact people. And then we learned, okay, maybe going through LexisNexis might be, we might find more accurate information, it might be more efficient. And then, you know, with the support of Rocket Foundation, there was the potential to hire a project manager to kind of lead this outreach effort. And so then I stepped up into that role. So a lot of what I'm doing right now is planning events, phone banking events between now and March 31st, trying to see if we can get the treasurer's office to attend a notary event so that they can accept forms on site. Really tried to remove some of these barriers that have either made it so that people are unaware or just has made it difficult for them to apply just generally. So I'm trying to meet people where they're at, meaning when we reach out to them, if somebody's like, you know what, I don't do email, I'm mailing them the form, you know, along with the instructions. But right now we're trying to do a lot of our correspondence from phone to email so that we can really send over not only the instructions on how to submit the form, but also resources on places to get it notarized for free. Like, you know, we have partners. Mac Development has been really amazing in meeting with some of these people who are impacted to notarize and help fill out their forms. Same with Bridging Communities, Wayne Metro. We kind of have built this coalition with numerous partners right now. In the email threads, we call it the Raffaele Coalition because of the Supreme Court ruling. And yeah, so these are a list of the people that we're working with. United Community Housing Coalition has also done tremendous work. Like I said, Detroit Justice Center. When I'm on that, we have this like central spreadsheet right now we're working off of. And again, major credit to Kobe for building that out. It's a pretty comprehensive Google Sheet system, meets Google Forms to track like all of our conversations that we're having with potentially up to 2,700 people, maybe more, depending on, you know, if they're alive or not, and who we have to reach to hopefully have success in them receiving the money owed to them or their families. Because again, a lot of these are family homes. So some of the data from our phone banking, we've had 95 people individually fill out forms, like unique people. So these 95 people are also have likely submitted multiple forms. I'm one of those people. I've probably submitted 90 forms, maybe more actually myself. 55% of the list we've attempted to contact, around like 1,400 people. We've had only 240 successful contacts though, but at the same time, we're looking at potentially like 2 million being collected back from the county. So, it's still a major impact. And as we hope to reach more people, that number will increase, hopefully. And then we have the phone banking events. So you can see that we've had a steady increase of volunteers. We've had 3 phone banking events so far. We're going to have another one this next week. In the next slide, I'll go over some just like dates that are coming up. But generally, we're hoping to have 3 more big phone banking events, but then I'm also partnering with Detroit Documenters to have a special assignment during the day, 3 hours each Monday, so that we can continue to just get through this list and contact as many people as possible. Follow-ups that I've personally made are 90. I've invested in this track phone for $20. Got a flip phone, and it goes off a lot with people calling back, especially after phone banking events, who maybe they got a voicemail, maybe they initially answered and thought it was a scam, and then did a little bit of research and then realized that, whoa, actually this money might be owed to me. So I get a lot of those calls right now, but we are hoping to connect with a call center with Detroit Housing Network to be able to help with those follow-ups, providing them a script so that they can, more people can help process some of these, or help get these forms filled out. Something, again, like I've experienced is a lot of people not having that information for the deeds and whatnot, but I'll let Donovan explain more. But typically I'll just call Donovan with my questions, being like, what do I say about this, or what do I do about this in this situation? So yeah, it's really great, again, to have these partnerships, because I don't have legal expertise for a lot of this. And yeah, again, we have to move really fast right now. So I'm like learning every day as I continue. So our future outreach events, March 5th at Tech Town, 5:30 to 7:30. March 19th, we're going to host it at Central Detroit Christian, also a really incredible partner. We've had people show up from CDC to our phone banking events and then just tell us that, you know what, we're going to just continue phone banking on our own, and that's really incredible. Like I said, we're going to have a special assignment for documenters. And then also with the coalition, we're hoping, like I said, to get a notary event. Central One Detroit Credit Union has offered a notary. I know the city has offered notary service. Rocket has notary on site, Wayne Metro. A lot of different partners have offered, but we're hoping to have an event where, in the final push, that March 31st deadline, we can have it set up so people can come get the information, get it notarized, and submit it. But yeah, I guess the next steps will be really interesting in terms of Outlier's role, because it is going to become increasingly more legal, the steps that are next. So anyway, but at the same time, I'm building a lot of relationships with some of these residents, and so coordinating between like how I can assist them through the next steps, but then also making sure they have legal support so they can make informed decisions. But that's it.
Yeah, that's incredible effort. So yeah, hats off to you and Kobe for putting this together. And it's always really great to see data that Alex put together getting leveraged and used to really have impact. So yeah, really exciting to see. All right, I'll hand it off now to Donovan. Hopefully you're good on your interview.
Yeah, we're just about to do it, but we're gonna hold off, and so I'll
no
run
problem.
through what
Yeah.
I've got to talk about real quick, and then I'll do the interview after that. So should I just start? I apologize, I don't have any slides or anything, but
No, that's okay. You can jump right in. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no problem. So yeah, thanks for having me, and obviously thanks to Alex, thanks to Outlier Media, to Shiva, to everybody, Kobe. for like, you know, doing all this incredible work that we obviously would not be able to, you know, we wouldn't have anything to do if it wasn't for them. So I think that's really wonderful. I just wanted to run through quickly kind of the legal framing of this, because I know that there are some questions about that. And I'll try not to bore people with too much details, and I'll try to be brief, but I have never been brief in my life. But so basically what happened was back in 2020, there was a case called Raffaelli, which I know Shiva kind of alluded to. And that was a Michigan Supreme Court case that basically said that it was an unconstitutional taking to keep people's surplus proceeds from these tax foreclosure auctions. So effectively, when the home was sold, let's say they owed $5,000 in back taxes, and it's sold at auction for $100,000. The county was just keeping that money, that $95,000, as well as the $5,000, and then they were saying, and that's ours. But under the Michigan Constitution, under the United States Constitution, it is a taking. Basically, the government cannot keep your property without just compensation. So effectively, the Supreme Court ruled that it was an unconstitutional taking, both under the U.S. Constitution as well as the Michigan Constitution, and that was in Raffaelli. So and that was in July of 2020. Immediately after that, in about I think December of 2020, the state legislature passes a law that effectively says, okay, fine, we have to give back all this money to people when we keep it, but you have to jump through all these hoops in order for you to get back your money. You have to file a claim of interest saying, hey, I might be owed some money on this house that you might be auctioning. And then you have to file a motion, and that happens every year, regardless of this kind of specialized process that we're in right now. And so they passed a law saying that effectively, if you're being a cynic like I am, to create barriers for people getting their money back. And that's a law that is still in place, and again has happened every year, 2021 onward. But what they said specifically in that statute, and I think it's pretty shocking when you look at it. It's a site called MCL 211.78T. And you don't have to read it if you don't want to, but if you look at section 2, you'll see that the case Raffaelli is specifically mentioned. And the legislature specifically said, if Raffaelli, that case, is ever made retroactive, then you have to follow this other process that's spelled out in subsection 6, I think. And so what their assumption there was that Raffaelli was not retroactive, which is absurd, right? It's a taking. Somebody's constitutional right was violated, and so they're entitled to the money. So what they were saying with that is the years 2015 to 2020 have no recourse, do not get their money back. And so then there was a long fight, and that's what ultimately led to the Schaefer decision that we have now, where it was in July of 2024 that said, no, it clearly was meant to be retroactive. It's kind of absurd that you ever thought that it wasn't. So now you have to go through that process to give people 2015 to 2020 their money back. But I just want to take a step back and say, and I could be wrong about this, but I have never in my life seen a case cited in a statute in that way to say, oh, well, if the court says something else, it's almost like they knew that their logic was garbage, and they knew that they were just trying to make this process more difficult for people. And again, I'm being cynical. There might have been other reasons that I'm unaware of. But regardless, so now we're in this process, which is in subsection 6 of that. And effectively what it says is by March 31st of the year after a decision making Raffaelli retroactive, which Schaefer did, as long as there's 180 days between that decision and the following March 31st, then people have to file their claim of interest. Anyone who thinks they have their owed money from 2015 to 2020 has to file their claim of interest by that date. Then by July 1st, the treasurer will give a decision saying yes or no, you are entitled to money or you are not, and these are the reasons why, I imagine. And then by October 1st, you have to motion for that money to be released to you. And so that's basically the process that people have to file. Now, one of the massive hurdles that I don't think I heard anybody mention, but I've been a little bit in and out, is that we found that out of the 2,700 people that Alex identified as potentially being owed these proceeds, 37% of them are, I think, yeah, 37% are deceased. So about 1,000 people are deceased, which adds an additional hurdle of how do we get those people? How do we contact those heirs? You can't actually file a motion in circuit court without being a representative of the estate of the deceased person, which means that all of those people, all 1,000 of those people, if they want to file a claim, not only have to file a claim of interest, but then also have to open a probate estate, which is complicated, which oftentimes you have to pay an attorney for in order to even file the claim. So that's another thing that we're working on, getting resources for that, and then to help people with that. But again, it's just another barrier. It's also not clear if you read the definition of claimant under that statute that I keep mentioning. It says that a claimant is a person who's entitled to the proceeds, or I'm sorry, a person who has an interest in the property at the day before the foreclosure. And in my mind, and this is where it gets a little bit like, we're a little bit nervous. Like the treasurer could say, oh, well, even though we've told all of these heirs that they can file a claim of interest, they actually don't have an interest in the property the day before the foreclosure, at least not a perfected interest. So we're going to kick out all of those claims. I'm not saying they're going to do this. We've been told that they're not going to do this, but then we've never gotten it in writing, so these are legal arguments that could be made that could, further confuse the situation, that could, and the reason for this is it just wasn't well thought out, truthfully. Anyone who's done work in Detroit real estate, I've been an eviction defense lawyer for a very long time. Well, I mean, relatively, I guess only since like 2020, really, that I started doing it full time. But that like basically every other case you hear is like, yeah, my grandma owned it and then she gave it to my dad and now I'm living there, or gave it to my uncle and then my cousin got it. And, there's always some sort of like, I shouldn't say always, but there's often a confusing series where, because of, again, the legal hurdles of passing property down to family members, people just don't do it. And so anyone who was really thinking about this could have seen this coming. But again, the legislature just didn't do a good job of anticipating what this was actually going to look like. And also maybe just didn't care because they don't want people to actually get this money. Again, I'm being cynical and I apologize for that if this isn't the appropriate forum for that. But anyway, that's really all I have to say in terms of the legalities and in some of the kind of confusing things. There's been a lot of other, confusing, legal questions that we've had to work through, but that's really the kind of the highlights. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for filling us in before your interview. And yeah, it's great. You're gonna hop on and raise some more awareness.
Yeah, and I'll be around too. Hopefully this will only take a couple minutes and I'll be able to answer questions as well. I'll try to keep listening as I can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Excellent. So this is the point where we move into kind of Q&A. Anybody have any questions on efforts that are happening here, on the data? Feel free to drop questions in the chat or raise your hand if you want to come off mute.
Well, if nobody has questions, or while folks are deciding if they got something they want to ask, one other thing that I'll add as context here, obviously the Supreme Court decision in Schaefer allowing for retroactive recovery of windfall profits applies statewide. I think one thing that's important to note, and I don't think that anybody considered this at all when the case was being argued or the legislature was doing its work or anything, but the reality of the Schaefer decision is that the primary beneficiaries, the people who have, I should say, the people who have the most to recover from Wayne County tax foreclosure auction windfall profits are not homeowners, it's speculators, unfortunately. The work that I did, I only looked at homeowners because I have no interest at all in helping speculators make yet more money off of this system or Detroit real estate. But if you actually look at where are those windfall profit amounts, it's homeowners, tended to lose one property, right? They're just the home that they owned. And again, as I said, 80% of those homes did not sell at auction for more than the tax debt owed. But speculators very frequently had portfolios, right, of properties that were foreclosed. Or they might own, 100, 200, 300 properties, and maybe they lose 25 or 50 to foreclosure in a year. And that was part of their business model. It's no sweat off their back. And if they lose 25, 50 properties to a foreclosure auction and 10 of those sell for more than the tax debt owed, there are a lot of speculator portfolios I was looking at that were owed hundreds of thousands of dollars, as a result of this decision. And so, while it is, I think, reasonable to say, hey, county profited off of this. There needs to be an avenue for people to get their money back. Unfortunately, the way things tend to break in Detroit is that the reality of the real estate market and the players in the foreclosure system is that the people who stand the most to gain are speculators and absentee landlords and those kinds of owners.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Alex, too, because like with some of these calls, the ones, for example, that call and I can't find them in our data set, I've started to notice that pattern when I'm looking up their information in the Register of Deeds. And I'm like, oh, whoa, this is not the only home that you had. And those conversations are always very different than the ones where it was the family home.
Shout out from Chicago. Yeah, I know we have some super high quality presenters today, so I think you guys must have answered everyone's questions. But yeah, I guess if there's some great opportunities to get more involved with Shiva and the outreach. If you are, and I guess I don't know what the Detroit Justice Center is doing, but I guess if you have a legal background, there's a lot of opportunity here to help folks sort out property in Detroit. So I want to thank everybody for joining our next. First I'm going to highlight, we recently hired our, we've recently hired a data curator to help us keep these things going. So I just wanted to introduce Julian. She's on the call today too. So if you continue attending our data forums, say hey to her and welcome her. She'll be coordinating our next data forums as we go forward. I think for March, we're targeting air quality as our topic. So a lot of interesting things happening around air quality and data collection in Detroit. All right. Again, yeah, thanks everybody so much. Thank you so much, Alex Alsup, for joining and giving us an incredible background, and Shiva for sharing, and Donovan for popping in and out while you're actually trying to make this happen. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
Thanks. Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Thanks.